What's going on, guys? So I got a little bit of an, actually tonight's an impromptu live. I wasn't expecting to do this. Just figured I'd pop on. I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about weight loss. This seems to be one of the biggest topics that we all deal with. And really the bottom line is it's so hard for people. When you talk about weight loss, it's just so difficult for people. And you know, I do get it to some degree, but then there are other times where I just say to myself, does it come down to the people really want it enough? You know, is it the motivation factor? Is it the fact that, you know, when we talk about pretty much every addiction, what does everybody always say? You have to hit rock bottom before you decide to change. And when it comes to weight loss, you know, a lot of people have the tendency to say, you know, well, I'm not as bad as that guy. You know, that guy's 350 pounds. I'm only, you know, 250. And, you know, I just want to lose like 20 pounds and everything in my life is going to be great. And that's not the case. You know, if you get to the point where you're that overweight, where it's affecting your health, and that's the other thing too, is a lot of people, I don't think that most people comprehend the impact that excess weight has on your overall health. Now, there are exceptions to every rule, right? So there's always going to be somebody who's slightly overweight, 20, 30, even 40 pounds overweight, and they could be otherwise healthy. So there's always exceptions, right? We can't paint everybody with a broad brush and just say, well, you're overweight, so you must be metabolically sick, and this, that, and the other thing. That said, I think it's safe to say that the majority of people that are overweight do have some type of health issues. And on the flip side, there are plenty of people walking around. Actually, statistics say that there are just as many quote-unquote normal weight people walking around with metabolic disease and other illnesses as there are overweight people. But getting back to the topic of the actual weight loss, what does it take for somebody to decide, I'm finally going to make the change? I get this all the time. People will say, you know, you have that wedding coming up, you have you know, the class reunion, or you have some affair, and you say, well, you know, I just want to lose 20 pounds and then everything will be good. Again, if you get to the point where you're that overweight, there are other things going on in your life, right? Normally, you don't just put the weight on and everything else is going smoothly. You're overeating for a reason, and usually it's some level of food addiction. As much as people don't want to admit that, there's some level of food addiction going on, you know, and there's no way around that. I can't argue that with people because it's a fact. And if it's not, then I challenge anybody to pick their favorite food. And when I say favorite food, I don't mean broccoli and I don't mean a steak. You know, I mean some type of processed food, highly processed, ultra processed food, and just quit it cold turkey. I defy most people to do that. They're not going to do it. They can't do it. So I usually tell people, you know, initially, you know, it's just, people think that weight loss is just a matter of, I'm going to move more, right? I'm going to exercise. I'm going to start to exercise, and I'm just going to start eating less. That is a flawed equation, because it just doesn't work. You're not going to, you have to find a way. You have to learn how to eat. You have to learn what to eat. You have to learn how often to eat in order to, and if you do that with a relatively, you know, most of your food is coming from whole food sources, your body is going to level off at some point. Your body will find its set point and you'll be okay. I've talked about this before, about most people feel that exercise is going to be the cure-all, that they could do everything Everything in their life is going to stay the same. Their eating habits, their sleeping habits, their stress levels, all that's going to be equal. And all they're going to do is go to Planet Fitness and get a $10 a month membership, or they're going to hire a personal trainer, and everything's going to be fine. The thing is, what that people don't realize, most people don't, the majority of people don't, that this takes a complete lifestyle change. You have to look at your overall lifestyle. What's causing the weight gain? And again, if you want to really drill it down, it's the diet. It's the diet that we eat. It's the type of food that we eat. It's the frequency at which we eat. So obviously there has to be a calorie deficit. If you eat more calories than your body is going to use, the body will store that as fat, right? And no matter what you eat is going to get turned into fat, right? People just automatically assume that I'll only get fat if I eat something that has fat in it, fat on it, right? That's the only way I'm going to get fat. And they look at everything else, diet soda, fruit juices and things like that, processed foods. Well, no, it's low fat, so it's not going to make me fat. It absolutely will. We can get into the carbohydrate debate. A lot of people, when they hear carbohydrates, they think cookies, crackers, cakes, the soda, juices, and that's just pure sugar. When you want to talk about carbohydrates in a relatively whole food diet, we're talking about most fruits, vegetables, some tubers, some sweet potatoes, even to a point, maybe regular potatoes and things like that. So in order to lose weight, my top 3 rules that I preach and that I recommend to people, obviously we need a slight calorie deficit, right? You have to be eating less than what your body is going to use. And then we have to look at the eating frequency. In other words, how often are you eating during the day? Are you getting up in the morning, throwing something in your mouth, a couple hours later, the snack, which is just a horrible, horrible term. There's no reason for any human being to need a snack in between your meals. But again, you want to cut down at eating frequency. How many times a day are you eating? And you want to compress that eating window. Meaning, even if you eat 3 meals a day, it would be much more beneficial to have those meals within a tighter window. I suggest starting off an 8-hour window. Reason being, when you have a high carbohydrate diet, when your body relies on sugar for energy, it's very hard to go long periods of time without having your fix, right? You'll notice that you get hungry, you get that hangry feeling, you get the shakes, and you just need to eat. And that's when you get to that point where you're just throwing anything and everything in your mouth just to satisfy that craving. So another point that a lot of people, whether they don't believe it, they don't want to believe it, everything in our body is controlled by hormones. And the big hormone that we're talking about when it comes to weight loss and gain is insulin. Other ones would be our cortisol levels. There's a hormone called leptin, and leptin is a hormone that signals your body and says, okay, I'm satiated, right? I ate enough, stop eating. The problem is that when you have a diet that consists of these highly processed foods and you're eating them over and over and over again, all of these hormones are just completely out of whack. You'll become insulin resistant, meaning your body has to produce more and more and more insulin to do the job that it had to do before. Your leptin signal will get screwed up, meaning that your body won't get that signal to say, hey, I'm satiated, stop eating, which is why, you want to use the term compulsive eating or just your continuous binge eating. It's because the hormones in the body are so far out of whack that things just aren't working correctly. And again, it goes back to the fact that these foods are so hyper palatable, made to be that way, that we just want to keep eating them, right? We satisfy You get that dopamine hit, and you feel good when you eat it. There's no way around it. Another thing that I like to bring up with people is alcohol consumption. Now, people will say, well, I only drink light beer, or I drink vodka, because the lack of calories or the lower calories. Alcohol, and believe me, I've said many times before, back in the day, I would drink pretty much anybody under the table. I had plenty of days, of way too high alcohol consumption. But my point is, it's a neurotoxin. And even if you're trying to lose weight, when you put alcohol in your body sees it as a poison. Right? A neurotoxin means neuro is brain, toxin is poison. So your body will shut down, your liver actually will shut down all other processes and say, we have to get rid of this poison. So for all intents and purposes, all fat burning is going to be shut down while your body rids itself of this poison. So anybody who feels that, well, I'm drinking skinny girl vodka, I'm drinking light beer, it's all good, I'm still going to lose weight. Well, not necessarily. You may still lose weight if your calorie intake is that low, but it's going to severely hinder it with excess alcohol consumption. Gusto, how we doing? Frankie, thanks for being here. How's everybody doing? Now, kind of what goes sometimes hand in hand with the excess alcohol consumption is going to be your stress levels. Right? A lot of people self-medicate. So if you're under a great deal of stress, and a lot of people are, it could be family stress, it could be relationship stress, it could be job stress, and stress, what's considered stress, it's very subjective, right? It could be, somebody could view stress as just being in a life or death situation, and somebody could see stress as just having to get up and get out of bed and go to work every day, right? So getting back to the hormone situation, we have another hormone called cortisol, and that's that fight or flight hormone, cortisol. When we're stressed, our body spits out cortisol. We have high levels of cortisol. Then your body will in turn make sugar, and your blood sugar levels will go up. And then that will affect insulin production. So again, it's like a chain reaction, almost like a domino effect. So you have to look at all these things. Another big stress that most of us have in our lives is lack of sleep. And that's going to cause chronically high cortisol levels. And that's going to directly affect weight gain and weight loss. So we have to look at all these things. And again, while exercise has its benefits, we can look at exercise as a way, it is a good stress reliever, right? But again, the problem is that most people look at exercise as the one answer. If I just do this, if I get that Planet Fitness or I get that gym membership, and I go and get on that treadmill, for a few minutes at a time or an hour at a time, and prop up that incline and prop up the speed, the weight's going to fall off. And it really, that's not the case. Because if you look at, no matter what type of exercise you do, you could do an extremely aggressive, say, HIIT routine. You do that for 30 or 40 or 45 minutes. If you figure the actual number of calories that you're going to burn in that time, it's really negligible. And especially, one of the most common things I see is somebody at the gym. I see it all the time. They'll have their bottle of Gatorade. They'll have their energy drinks, which are loaded with sugar and or artificial sweeteners, chemicals, which affect your hormone levels. So if you're going to go to the gym with a bottle of sugar, and 200 or 300 calories worth of sugar, and get on a treadmill and do or even if you do a weight workout or your HIIT workout, whatever, it's going to be a wash because you're taking in that sugar into your body, and you're never going to touch body fat. You're just going to be constantly burning what you're putting in your mouth. that's what your body's gonna, because that sugar is the quickest form of energy that your body has. It'll burn that sugar. Simple sugars are gonna be burned immediately, and that's the first. If your body needs energy, that's what it's gonna go for immediately. So yeah, the exercise is not the answer. It's a great adjunct. I mean, again, you have to exercise. Exercise is non-negotiable for a lot of reasons. And you know, if you're eating correctly, if you are at a calorie deficit, by all means, if everything else is leveled off, it's going to help you to some degree. Every little bit helps, right? The movement will help. But to look at exercise as the answer, as the key to weight loss, it's a flawed thought process. I don't believe it works. I'm sure it doesn't work. But people will hope against hope that it does work, no matter how many times you say it. So the other thing is, when we talk about a calorie deficit, what I find in most people, the vast majority of people that I deal with, people don't even realize that they use the term calories, and you know, I have to get my calories in, or I have to get my protein in, my calories. Very few people have any idea what that even means. I mean, we all have heard forever the term calories. You eat too many calories, you don't eat enough calories, you lose weight, hopefully. But do you really know how many calories that you need? What is your BMR? What is your basal metabolic rate? Meaning, if you do nothing else, if you just, like I'm doing here, I'm just sitting in a chair. And if I were to sit in this chair for 24 hours a day, just for my body to run itself, you know, we have that BMR, which is going to tell you how much your body needs just to survive with itself, not doing anything else. So then you have to look at, if you know your level, are you just do you have a desk job? Do you have like a demanding physical job? How many calories are you actually burning during the day doing other activities, right? So you would add that to your BMR, which is the baseline, how many calories you need just to survive, and then you would, about how many calories am I burning a day? And all you're doing really is guessing. It's a, you know, you have to just throw a dart, hit a number, and say, okay, I'm going to try that number for a while, and then see how you do, and adjust that number as you go along. But very, very few people, and that number is that's going to jump around. It's not going to stay constant, right? It's going to move a little bit. If you are losing weight, you're going to start needing, you know, less calories. If you put more muscle on your body, you know, that takes more calories to even maintain. That's why it's healthy. That's one of the benefits for the exercise. If you do build muscle, it takes more energy, more calories in order just to maintain that muscle on your body. So it does behoove you to work out, to do resistance training, and to build some muscle. So then we get into, well, what should I be eating? And that's another bone of contention with a lot of people. A lot of people are, you know, I'll use the term addicted, and people will just say, well, no, I'm not addicted, I just like it. I don't want to give up mine. And they have, you know, insert your shitty food. They have this affinity for this food. And if you say anything bad about the food, I mean, a lot of times you'll have a fight on your hands, right? People are that connected, that they're just so invested in it that, you know, I don't want to give up my XYZ. So when we talk about the food and how many calories do you need, and again, people talk about, I need my protein. I had a girl one time tell me that she eats a lot of blueberries because she wants to up her protein intake. Blueberries are a very healthy food, antioxidants, you know, it's on and on and on. There's so many things when you talk about blueberries, but blueberries are sugar. They're a carbohydrate, right? So people just don't know. I was online the other day, and somebody put up a post about bagels, and it was incredible how people were defending their morning bagel. Now, a bagel has zero nutritional value, zero. All it is stripped down white flour, which is just void of any nutrition. Maybe, I guess they put salt in it, maybe a little bit of sugar. I don't know whatever they add to it. And that's it. It's a ball of dough, right? And these people were talking about how you're vilifying these types of food, and you're scaring people. And bagels are a great source of energy. Again, it's just that people are so connected to these things, and they don't realize. Now, people will tell you that they'll have their bagel and butter in the morning, and then they'll have their cup of coffee with the sugar and some type of bullshit creamer, which is probably loaded with some type of vegetable oil. These flavored creamers that they put in them. And I would suggest that the healthiest part of that whole setup there is going to be the black coffee and the butter. If you take that butter and mix it into the coffee and have that, you'll probably be golden, right? But they will tell you, people will eat the bagel without the butter, with or low-fat cream cheese, because they're health conscious, right? And then they'll get into, well, I don't use sugar in my coffee, I use Equal or Splenda, which is just some bullshit chemical, which again is poison to the body, and we don't want to go down that rabbit hole now, but there's nothing healthy about those things. Again, the other thing too is a lot of people you can't convince them. They'll say, well, yeah, I don't like to eat vegetables, or I don't like a lot of fruit. A lot of people do like fruit, but whoever doesn't, or as a matter of convenience. Well, I drink grape juice, I drink this juice, I make a smoothie. Now, fruit isn't inherently unhealthy. It's you can eat fruit. I mean, it's perfectly fine. But then what people will do under the guise of this being somehow more nutritious is they'll take that fruit and then they put it into a blender, and then they pulverize it, and they destroy the fiber in the fruit. Or they'll take a juice machine, like I don't know if any of you guys remember the old Jack LaLanne juice machines. I actually had one back in the day. And you'll take that fruit and press it into the juicer. It'll remove everything but the juice. You'll pour that juice out. It'll take, the meat of the fruit, the skin, which is where most of the nutrients are. So now what you have is all of the sugar in a liquid form drawn out of the fruit. So you're just shooting your main line in sugar right into your liver. Whereas if you took the piece of fruit, the whole apple, the whole orange, and ate it, you would have the benefit of the fiber, and it would slow the absorption of that sugar. And it's the same thing with this whole lunacy with smoothies, right? Well, I'm going to have a smoothie because it's healthy. It's better than having a can of soda. Okay, I can't argue that point. But in the grand scheme, why would you take, the best part of the fruit or the benefit? And everybody's talking about, well, I need fiber, and you do to some degree. Benefits the colon, the intestines and whatnot, prebiotic. But then you throw all of this healthy food into a blender and just destroy it, and then drink it down in a liquid form. And again, you're taking, vegetables. There's not high sugar content in a vegetable, but really what you're doing is just destroying the fiber content and getting whatever little bit of sugar is out of that fruit, and you're just drinking it down and sending it right to your liver. So again, it comes down to you have to learn how to eat. I suggest to some people to actually start tracking your macros, and very, very few people are going to go down that road. It's just they're completely overwhelmed when it comes to that. Whether it's the math involved, or they see it as they're just so put upon. Who has time for that? You know, but it's a great way to learn about the foods that you put in your mouth, the content, you know, carb content, the protein content, the fat content, what type of fat it is, calorie content. It's just, you know, and you don't have to do it for the rest of your life, but it could be a temporary thing just until you get to know what you're eating, why you're eating it, and again, what the food is made up of, right? So, yeah, that's kind of my spiel on the weight loss. Again, I always say that you can get people to exercise pretty much until their legs and arms are going to fall off, but to get them to stop eating their favorite cookie or donut or having their favorite, you know, going to a fast food restaurant, near impossible. I mean, it's really tough. Joey Donuts in the house. How you doing, Joe? Yeah, Gus, that's a good point, right? So how many people have a sedentary lifestyle? They don't exercise, or even if they do, they have a sedentary, you know, they have a job where they're not doing anything physical, and they're sitting in that chair or in a cubicle for 8-10 hours a day. And that's a pet peeve of mine too. You go to the gym, and I just saw it the other night. I was in the gym, and there were 2 other people in the gym, and both of them would do a set and then sit there and work their thumbs out for however long, you know, just tapping away on the phone. So, you know, again, as much as, you know, exercise is beneficial, it's not going to be, that's not the one answer. But it's a great adjunct, and again, for a lot of other reasons, we should be doing it. Food porn, I have been carnivore since June. It's amazing. Okay, so, right, so there are times and places and situations where you would use, I think, a specific diet. You can certainly use a keto diet in some situations. The carnivore, I've never gone completely carnivore. Now, food porn, when you say carnivore, do you mean literally nothing but meat? And I guess what else would you do? Maybe some eggs. And other than that, 0 carb. You're not doing anything else. Because a lot of people use that term. You know, I have people tell me, well, I eat keto. And that just means that they go to the store and they buy some type of chocolate keto prepackaged snack, and it says keto on the label. So then they tell, you know, and then they're eating normally, but they just eat some type of keto snack, or they'll drink some MCT oil, and they'll tell you, oh, I'm doing keto. You know, keto it's again, these diets, these extreme, I'm going to use the term extreme. I mean, that's the other thing that, you know, if you're going to be carnivore, a legitimate carnivore, 24/7, how long is that going to last? Right? Very few people are going to do it for any length of time. Same thing with the keto diet. Again, I'm not knocking these diets and saying that they don't have a place. If you have some type of sickness, or they can definitely be a benefit. Without a doubt, I believe that. But how long is it sustainable? You could do it for a while until you fix your issues, but again, along with that, you have to learn how to eat, because you have to learn how to land on your feet when you do come off of that. Right? You can't, if you do a legitimate carnivore diet for any length of time, and you do fix the issues that you have or had, you have to, and you decide to come off it, you have to know what you're doing, so you don't fall right back into that same trap that got you in trouble to begin with. Food porn, you're doing bacon, eggs, butter, steak, and ground beef. Only beef, no carb strict. See no reason to change it. All right, so food porn, real quick, did you do it what made you make the change? Were you having some issues? Or were you perfectly healthy and just decided, I like meat that much, I want to do it? Or is this something that, okay, so yeah. Again, food porn, were you doing it for a specific reason? Was there some, physical issue or some type of sickness and you said, well, this might be the way to go, that's going to cure it. I don't want to go the way of medications and, okay, well, there you go, food porn. So you had a heart attack in December. Okay, so you quit drinking all sugars. So I'm assuming you were basically, prior to that, what led up to the heart attack, you were basically the standard American diet, right? Probably what we all do, the fast foods, the processed foods and things like that, which led up to your issues and unfortunately, ultimately the heart attack. So you started with basically keto and then you transitioned into carnivore. Okay. So, I don't see any, again, it's all, if it's sustainable food porn, then it's perfectly fine. But my point is that for most people it's not sustainable. It's just not. Now, that said, it doesn't mean that they should go back to eating the ultra-processed foods, the standard American diet. You can have a whole food diet. When we say add in carbs, again, it's going to be fruits and vegetables, maybe some potatoes, real carbs, not fake, made up frankenfoods, you know what I'm saying? And you can do that. You could live a perfectly healthy life having a pretty well-balanced diet, but all of this bullshit that we're told to eat grains, and when people hear grains, they think if they go to the store and they see whole wheat bread, that's whole grain. That's going to be something that's healthy, and it's not. It's not. Maybe bread that was grown, the wheat that was grown a couple of 100 years ago, and not processed and made right into bread. I'm sure there was some benefits there. You had the fiber content. There was other, maybe nutrition to be garnered from it. But the wheat that they produce now, and again, getting back to the bagel story, the white bread, it's totally stripped of any nutrition. Why would you see something? Why would you buy something that says fortified with? So you buy, if it has to be fortified, that means there's no nutrition in it. Right, or that specific vitamin, mineral, whatever they're adding to it is missing. So now they're going to take a synthetic vitamin, a synthetic substance, and fortify this food that has no nutritional value, and then tell you to make that the mainstay of your diet, right? Because if you look at that bullshit pyramid, food pyramid, they continue to stress grains. So, high food porn, right? So, and again, I'm sure, but again, if you find it sustainable and you're that happy with the carnivore, perfectly fine. But if you have no issues with vegetables, you can go back and eat a moderate amount of vegetables. Again, the fruit, it's all a matter of preference. But if it's sustainable for you and you do it for any real length of time, without going back to, even slipping back into keto, or just making your diet more well-rounded and adding in the vegetables and the fruits, then good on you. Right. You used to live on processed junk food, but like we all do. We all did. That's what's killing everybody. That's the problem. And it's staring us right in the face, but you'll never convince people of that. You'll never ever convince people of that. So I wanted to, real quick, guys, before I wrap it up, I wanted to go through a couple of comments that I got on some recent videos. And actually, food porn, we happen to be on a subject here. I did a post I don't know, a week or two ago, something about the macro breakdown, actually, of a keto diet, right? So a keto diet is anywhere between 75 and 85% fat, 15 to 20% protein, and really trace carbs, around 5% of the carbs. So one of the subscribers named Jackton Stoic, who's actually a young guy, this kid's a young beast, I believe he's about 15 years old, but he asked, why would you even recommend the keto diet? Well, first of all, it is a great, for most people, again, you can't, it's all, subjective, it's not, there's no one fix for everybody, so you have to try things, you have to experiment with things. But right off the bat, if somebody were to ask me, if I have a ton of weight to lose, what would be a way to go? I think that keto is a good way to go. Again, is it sustainable over the long haul for the vast majority of people? No. But it's a therapeutic diet. It could definitely help with the weight loss. It was developed back in the 1920s to help people with seizures, with epilepsy. And based on what I've read on it, it was very effective. And then when you got into, I believe, like the 1930s, when they came out with the drugs, it all went by the wayside, and all of a sudden the keto diet was dangerous, it wasn't healthy, you have to take drugs. So again, I would definitely recommend a keto diet, a legitimate keto diet where you're eating whole foods, healthy fats, not where you're going to the supermarket and buying some bullshit chocolate snacks that say keto on the bag. That's not a keto diet. So I think there is a place for it. And again, getting back to you, food porn, I think that there's a place for the carnivore diet. And really any other diet, it depends on what you thrive on. It really is trial and error. But I know the one diet that doesn't work, that's absolutely killing people, is the standard American diet and all of this shit food. Another one of our subscribers by the name of Louis Maldonado, he left a comment. Actually, this was some weeks back. I haven't heard from him. I hope he's doing well with it. But he wanted to try out some level of intermittent fasting, which I think is the smart thing to do. I think that works. And he was going to try out 2 meals a day. Coincidentally, that's what I do on most days, is 2 meals a day. And it's more than sufficient to get, again, we'll get back to that term, my calories. I don't think there's any human being on earth that can't get the nutrition that they need in 2 meals a day. So he was going to try that out. And to even say that, I kind of sometimes feel guilty using the term fasting, because I don't even see it as fasting. I just see it as an eating schedule, and I think it's pretty much what we should be doing. You eat, and then if you're going to have, even if you're going to do 3 meals a day, you have them within that certain window. There's no reason, absolutely no reason, to be eating right before you go to bed, sitting on a couch at night, ramming Cheetos down your throat, eating half a gallon of ice cream. There's no need for it. You're killing yourself by doing that. Most people can thrive probably doing 1 meal a day, and I think 1 meal a day is another good strategy for people that are trying to lose weight. So yeah, again, that's this nonsense of eating. You have to eat 6 meals a day to keep your metabolism up, and it's all bullshit made up by food companies and supplement companies trying to get you to just keep eating. then we had somebody else here left a comment and said, I just starve myself most of the time because at least twice a week I'm going to pig out. So I got to balance it out. Well, that's not really balanced. I don't know if he was trying to be funny. But again, it's not sustainable to starve yourself. If that's what he's doing. And I don't think he's probably not starving himself. Most people have no conception of what the term starving means. So yeah. So there you go. Food porn. A lot of people will tell you, you get that question. Can I build muscle over 40, over 50? Of course you can. You absolutely can. So if you're doing it on a diet that and of course the inflammation is going to be down because, what's the number one driver of inflammation in the human body? It's insulin, right? So I'm sure, I would assume anyway, if you were eating a trash diet, if you were eating ultra-processed foods, your insulin levels must have been chronically high, and you were probably in a constant state. You probably had inflammation throughout your body consistently. But again, that's a concept that a lot of people just, whether they don't want to believe it, they don't think that it applies to them for some reason. You can only hope that people come around at some point. Yeah, food porn says, I never knew what inflammation was. I thought it was normal to feel like hell all the time. Most people do. Most people do. They think that aging, well, I'm in pain, this hurts me, this is swollen, this aches a little bit. I'm getting older, it just comes with the territory. It's bullshit. It's just bullshit. And again, to try and explain that concept to people, if you just stop eating what you're eating, it's going to affect people can't fathom the effect that it would have on it, because most people just won't do it to the point where it's going to where they're going to get the benefits from it. Again, they decide, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to go on a diet, and they think that that's just eat less, eat the same shit that I'm eating, just eat less of it. I'm going to be white-knuckled for a few weeks, try and lose the weight. And again, 99% of people are going to fail at it. And if they do lose a couple of pounds, it's going to be back in a couple of weeks. So yeah, they think that this, and then, what's the first thing you do? They don't even realize that either, but they're addicted to these anti-inflammatories, the Motrin, the Tylenol, and then they run to the doctor. And the doctors don't look at, they're not looking at your stress levels. They're not going to look at your diet. You go into a doctor's office, you wait in the waiting room for 2 hours. How long do you actually spend with the average doctor? 5, 6. If you're there for 6 minutes, he's slow. You're in and out. They don't go into your background for the most part, into your history. It's basically what's hurting you, what's your ailment. And I'll find a prescription for it. They get out the slide rule. You have that, I'll give you that. And then you go back in a few weeks, it didn't work. Okay, well, let's try this, or double your dose of that. And then come back again and we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, you're still boozing, you're still eating like shit, you're still not sleeping right, you're still under a lot of stress, but you'll take your pills. Yeah, food porn, I don't know if you were here when I first started, but I said, like any addiction, and eating is an addiction, and all this, the alcohol, the food addiction, the lifestyle addiction, everything, the addiction to convenience, to comfort, to consumption, we're all addicted to that. But it's not until you hit rock bottom, and obviously, unfortunately in your case, your rock bottom must have been your heart attack. And then you said, well, this isn't right, I have to change. Yeah, food porn. I'm gonna make this claim, and you can call me crazy and whatever, but you can reverse type 2 diabetes in most cases quicker than you can cure a common cold. Um, it's insanity. It's insanity that these doctors they tell people that are raging diabetics that if you fast, and again, I kind of feel guilty using the term fast, really just skipping breakfast. If you don't eat breakfast, they call it fasting, which is a crock of shit, but we'll go with it. No, you have to eat. They're telling a raging diabetic that you have to eat in order to keep your blood sugar levels up because you're taking medication that's going to artificially push your blood sugar levels down. How about I don't eat what's going to raise my blood sugar, and then my blood sugar won't go up and I don't need that medicine. Instead, they will tell you to eat the food to keep your blood sugar up, so when you take the pill that's going to push your blood sugar down, it doesn't go down too far. It's maddening. They tell type 2 diabetics to keep your A1C, your blood sugar levels around 7. Around 7. So basically what they're doing is, they have you hooked. They're not bringing you up on deck yet. They're just like, dragging you along. And it's like death by 1,000 razor blades over time. You're just killing yourself slowly. You're spending, and the money is not even, I shouldn't even mention the money, but it's sickening the amount of money that people spend. And really, there's millions, tens and hundreds of millions of people that are in this condition, and it really is a glut on the system. It really is. It's just crazy. Yeah, see, that's great. 917 down to 517, down 9.7 down to 5.7. That's good stuff. Yeah. Food porn, you're absolutely right. You go to the American Diabetes Association, that's the biggest fucking scam in plain English, next to the American Heart Association. They're so full of shit. They are bought and paid for, run by the food companies and the pharmaceutical companies. All it is propaganda. They're telling diabetics to have oatmeal in the morning, with fruit juice, with fruit on top of it. And use skim milk because you don't want to have the fat in regular milk because that's going to kill you. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And again, I put a post up today. Actually, it was a short video that I put up, and in the video it said if your doctor tells you not to eat red meat, eggs, this, that, the other thing, and tells you to eat Cheerios and oatmeal to lower your cholesterol. The vast majority of people, again, there's tens, even hundreds of millions of people that are diabetic. You want to use the term pre-diabetic, that's another crock of shit. If you're A1, first of all, if your A1C is even borderline, you're diabetic. You're well on your way. There's no turning back, right? Unless you make serious changes. So then you're going to tell people that if your LDL cholesterol is higher than 100, 150, some ridiculously low number, you're going to have a heart attack and die. And you'll be a raging diabetic, and they'll tell you, eat oatmeal because that's going to lower your LDL and it's going to save you from having a heart attack. Meanwhile, a diabetic who has chronically high insulin levels and has so much inflammation in their body is destroying their arteries, completely destroying their arteries. And then the cholesterol and the calcium deposits go to your arteries to try and fix it because your body is brilliant and it's really trying to save itself. But they flip it around and say, well, if you eat cholesterol, it's just going to float into your heart. And people have that conception because I've had people say it to me. I don't want to eat eggs because of all the cholesterol. Well, why? Well, it's going to give me a heart attack. It's just out of control. It's just out of control. So again, people that eat oatmeal, if you're a healthy person and you want to have some oats, and I ate oatmeal my whole life, but I ate Quaker oats, which was loaded with sugar, had dry fruit in it, which was loaded with sugar, and it's a bowl of sugar. That's what it is. And if you're going to add fruit to it, you're adding sugar to it. But if you're a healthy person and you want to have it and it doesn't affect you negatively, then go ahead and have it. But to tell somebody who's metabolically sick, a raging diabetic, overweight, to wake up every morning, and then this bullshit, well, you don't understand. See, I have overnight oats. I don't eat oatmeal, I have overnight oats. I soak them in a jar in skim milk, which is white soda, and then I eat them. I do it the healthy way. Food porn, red meat is demonized, but never a bad word about sugar. Absolutely, and that's all by design. It's all by design. In food porn, you're eating 10 eggs a day, you got me beat. I'm usually, I'm in the 6 or 7 range. So yeah, there's definitely, the whole thing about demonizing, they're not going to demonize sugar, food porn, because that's what they sell. Everything is sugar. Everything. It's the juice, it's the soda, again, the crackers, the cakes, the bread, the cookies, the frozen pizzas, everything. Just go into a supermarket. And they always say, like, shop around the perimeter, because that's where, and that's really true. That's really true. I made it into the bowels of the supermarket the other day, like into the middle, because I bought some canned vegetables because I make dog food for my dog. So I ventured out into the bowels, and I had to take a shower when I got home, because it's just unbelievable. There is nothing that they make that isn't loaded with some type of sugar, maltodextrin, chemicals, preservatives, nothing. So no, they're never going to demonize sugar. And that's another concept that it's kind of hard to get through to people, is that word sugar. Because like I just said, everything is sugar. Again, we'll go back to the oatmeal. It's broken down into your body as sugar, as glucose. There's a little bit of protein content in it, but it's just going to be broken down into sugar. And any excess sugar in your body, you'll store some. The liver's going to store, and not a lot. The liver can only store, the average liver, 100 grams, 102, let's say a couple of ounces, a couple or a few ounces really is what it amounts to. And then you have what's stored, the glycogen stored in your muscles, and that's it. And then once you reach capacity, that's when the fat making starts. And again, even when you talk about your liver, you talk about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's like you caught something. You didn't catch fatty liver. You ate and drank yourself into a fatty liver. And back in the day, when you heard somebody had fat on their liver, never, ever, up until, I think I read, it was up around 1980, there was no documented cases of like children having fatty livers. Now it's common. It's very common for little kids to have fatty livers. That was a condition that was just, if you had a 60-year-old drunk, he was almost certain to have, he or she was almost certain to have fatty liver. Now, it's common. 1 out of 3 people are diagnosed with it. And that means that there are millions and millions of other people that have it that aren't diagnosed. So it's rampant. So the other concept is the fact that this diabetes and obesity is somehow genetic. And again, you can call me crazy, and how can you say that a lifestyle disease has anything to do with genetics? Now, you could say that a child might be predisposed to be obese and have a fatty liver and start developing diabetes at an early age because of the people that raised that child. Because when you're raised by somebody, you eat what they eat, you do what they do, you live how they live, and you learn from them, and you carry that on as you go through life. But to say that there's some type of gene that's going to give you type 2 diabetes, right? We're not talking about type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, it's absurd. It's criminal that they're pushing that narrative. I believe it's absolutely criminal that they could even push that. And people believe it. People believe it. Maybe it gives a lot of people an out where they could say, what am I supposed to do? It's genetics. There's nothing I can do about it, so I just have to go with the flow. I'll take my medication, I'll do what I can, but it is what it is. But it's not true. It's not true at all. Food porn, you said you had 0 performance anymore. Yeah, we absolutely are. And again, it's by design. If you look at the sugar content in baby food, even those Gerber, little jars loaded with sugar. Everything is sugar. Everything has sugar in it. And even, pre-made baby formulas, they're loaded with vegetable oils, which again is another rabbit hole that we won't have to go down tonight. Derek, how are you, brother? Thanks for being here. So yeah, the food porn, they get us right out of the gate, right out of the womb. Customer for life with most people. I don't know if you caught that. I had this mic down. So again, I was just talking about the fact that they try and push that very false narrative that type 2 diabetes and obesity is all genetic. One of our subscribers, Mr. Thompson, says that his dad, his mom, and his sister all have type 2 diabetes. They're obese, and the way, his words, they drink pop and they eat like shit. His father's been on insulin for 10 years. He doesn't eat or drink like that. He exercises regularly, and he doesn't have diabetes. I guess somehow that genetic predisposition just skipped him and got to everybody else in his family. Maybe they caught it at the supermarket when they were buying the soda and all the processed foods that he doesn't use. A mystery, I guess. But again, people will believe it if they see it written down somewhere, or they see it online. And again, this affinity that people have for the food, they get. It really is like they want to fight. They'll square off with you. They'll square off with you. If you mention anything bad about, their ice cream or their pizza, or this is my pizza, I have to have my pizza. You do have to have it because you're addicted to it. That's the bottom line. Gus, I think I missed you. I apologize, brother. Have a good night. Be safe. I have another, actually, we're going to beat this one to death, the diabetes, obesity. I have another subscriber, my friend Dean Henry. I actually did a video several weeks back, and I talked about the type 2 diabetes. And my friend Dean here says both of his parents, and his sister have diabetes. His other sister is pre-diabetic, which I would argue is diabetic, but we'll say pre-diabetic. He doesn't have it. Again, everybody in his family, parents, siblings have it. He eats a relatively healthy diet, doesn't abuse his body, exercises regularly. Again, he missed the gene. Everybody else wants to quote it at the supermarket. Can't figure it out. Actually, we can. What I can't figure out is how more people aren't seeing this, because it's right here. It's right here. And people just don't want to see it. All right, Derek, I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for popping in, man. Have a good night out there in Ventura. Guys, make sure you check out Osiris's channel, OOSIRIS. He's out in Ventura, California, and he's into a little bit of everything. He's a weightlifter, he's a burpee guy. So I had a couple other random questions here. We'll get off the diabetes and the obesity for now. We'll talk just a little bit about exercise. Again, this young guy, jacked and stoic, he's 15 years old. If you check out his channel, he's a beast. He works out like crazy. So he just said, do I isolate my arms with dumbbells, cables, and an easy curl bar, etc.? And actually I do on occasion. Obviously, if you do your back workout, your arm, you're gonna use those biceps. To what degree, it's gonna depend on your grip. I do a lot of pushes. I do a good amount of dips and push-ups, so obviously the triceps are getting some work. But on occasion, I will do a specific arm workout, and that's generally going to consist of some dumbbell work with the biceps, with bicep curls. Very rarely the cables. If I'm at the gym, I'll pick them up, and again, the easy curl bar, I'll use that on occasion. I would say probably 60 or 70% when I do isolate my arms, biceps specifically, it's going to be with the dumbbells. I'll do some alternating curls, I'll do some straight bicep curls, and I'll always throw in some hammer curls. The triceps, occasionally some dumbbell tricep extensions. Usually I'll do some straight bar dips, some bench dips, a few sets of diamond push-ups to isolate the triceps, and maybe on occasion on a cable machine, some press downs, things like that. But yeah, on occasion I will just do that. Maybe if I'm pressed for time and I just want to hit the arms and get a pump, I'll do that. Got one more here. Some time back I made a video about quitting alcohol, and I think it's real important. I did it, and my life changed drastically when I stopped with the alcohol. And again, I mentioned earlier in the stream here, I talked about how alcohol does in fact impact to a large extent your weight loss and weight gain. And it is a neurotoxin, but we look at it as it's always good times, right? If you don't have a drink in your hand, how could you be having a good time? But I would argue that, if I look back over my life, pretty much every bad incident I ever had or anything negative that happened in my life was somehow alcohol related. For you people that don't know, I mean, I was in law enforcement for 32 years. And if there was no such thing as alcohol, I probably wouldn't have had a job, or I would have had a very boring job. Because anytime there was a situation and out of control, you want to talk about fatalities with motor vehicle accidents. You want to talk about domestic disputes. You want to talk about just, fights. Your generic barroom brawls. You take out alcohol, and none of that ever would have happened. And again, on a personal level, just things that happened to me in my life. If it wasn't for alcohol, in a lot of ways, my life could have taken a different trajectory. And I think that's true with most people. But again, when it comes to giving it up, we equate the alcohol with good times, right? How can you go out on a Saturday night and not have, a few drinks and loosen up and have a good time? And I guess, again, I started drinking quarts of beer in the schoolyard when I was 14 years old, so I'm no stranger to it. But you can absolutely do it. And can you still go out? There are people that can control it. They can sit at home and have a couple of glasses of wine and live a perfectly healthy life. But for the vast majority of people, if it's not out of control on a consistent basis, at some point you will get out of control. And a lot of times, it only takes one time and it can alter your life forever. So I see a lot of benefits. Now, if you told me this 10 years ago, it would have went in one ear and out the other. I can control it. You know what I mean? No, not me. And it's the same thing with the eating, right? I can control it. I just do it because I like it. If I wanted to stop, I would, but no, I'm okay. I'm only 20 pounds overweight. It's not a big deal. It's the same thing with the alcohol, But, one of our subscribers, Sam, said he was in the Army years ago and he saw the level of, alcohol consumption and drunkenness that went on there. And again, I was in law enforcement. I could tell you the amount of alcohol consumption and drunkenness that went on with just my coworkers. It's an issue. It's an issue everywhere. It's across the board. So you can't just say to this one group of people. But he said he realized at an early age that alcohol was, going to take him down a bad path, and he didn't go that way. And, good on him, because most people, again, I didn't know what I was doing. I was 14 years old in the schoolyard getting quarts of beer. I would stand outside a liquor store and have somebody go in and buy the beer for me, and then run up to this schoolyard. As I sit here, I can honestly say that I don't ever see myself touching another drop of alcohol. I don't miss it. I don't miss the taste. The thought of the taste right now, it repulses me. When I see the way people act when they're out of control on it. And again, I'm not throwing stones because I was one of those people, but I just don't see any reason for it now. Mr. Active, I found out a while ago why slim people are diabetic was lack of muscle to burn energy. Yeah, I mentioned that a little earlier, why it behooves people to exercise and to build muscle, because it does take energy for the body to maintain that muscle. So yeah, you're right there. Alcohol in Arabic means eater of souls. I never knew that, but how fitting is that? Corey, you're 49 years old. You're looking to cut a lot of fat. You don't say how much, but I'll believe you on that when you say a lot of fat. should I do a keto or a low carb approach? Well, keto is a low carb approach. It's very low carb. When you talk about low carb, you're talking probably in the 50 to maybe 75 grams of carbs a day, which is not a lot in the grand scheme. But from a weight loss standpoint, again, I don't know how much, I don't know what you're eating or what you're, are you sedentary, are you doing any type of exercise? But again, we have to go with something sustainable. I would, again, I'd have to know more about your situation, but you could start with a low carb approach, and then I would really, because it's hard if you're addicted to carbs like pretty much everybody in the world, to just shut them off in one day is going to be extremely difficult, right? So you could really like wean yourself off until you got to the point where you were doing pretty much keto. And I would throw in some intermittent fasting, and you'll get yourself to the point. And again, it's hard to convince people of this in the beginning too, because the cravings are there. It's real. The cravings are strong and the cravings are real. But if you were to do low carb and then taper down into a keto and start doing some fasting, and you got yourself into a state of ketosis, those cravings would start to go away, and that's where you could really make some progress like that. So yeah, either one of those. Again, the low carb, if you just wanted to do low carb, and again, a low carb would be considered in that 50 to 75 grams per day of carbs, right? I wouldn't spread those out. If you're going to have any amount of carbs, you want to load them up in the early part of the day, right? In the morning. You definitely don't want to be doing that later in the day. I'm assuming you're like on a regular. When I say regular, you're getting up in the morning and going to bed at night. You're not like a shift worker and you're doing like a midnight, the graveyard shift and things like that. So if you're looking to go low carb or cut the carbs, I would keep most of my carb consumption, whatever carb consumption is going to be, I would keep that early in the day. Load them up earlier in the day, and then whatever meal you have late in the afternoon or early evening, I would keep that very, very low to even no carb. But you can get a hold of me if you have any questions. If I could help you out, my email is in the description of all of my videos. Feel free to shoot me a couple of questions or whatever. If you're serious and you're really looking to do something. But again, Corey, that goes back to my point about this being a legitimate addiction for those carbs. And again, if you have a lot of fat to lose, I'm assuming you haven't been on a whole food diet. You've been on a junk food diet or processed food diet. So you're going to be craving those carbs, and it's going to be uncomfortable, just like trying to break any addiction. But it can absolutely be done. It can absolutely be done. You can change your palate. You can get rid of those strong cravings. They might rear their head every now and again, but it's not going to be to where you're suffering and you're white knuckled trying to fight them off. You could definitely do it. So, all right, guys. There's no other questions. I'm going to wrap this up. I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate all the questions. Everybody make sure you get some reps in. I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Everybody have a good night. Stay safe. And I'll see you next time.